The 911 dispatcher would later say this was the call that made her quit her job. Not because of screaming, not because of violence, but because of how calm the woman sounded. It was 2:17 in the morning when the call came in. The city was silent. Most people were asleep. When the dispatcher answered, she didn't hear panic. She heard breathing, slow, controlled, as if the caller was afraid that even the sound of her breath might be heard by someone else in the room. The dispatcher asked the standard question, 911, what is your emergency? There was a pause. Then a woman whispered, I think someone is in my apartment. The dispatcher leaned forward, ready to type. She asked where the caller was located, but instead of answering, the woman said something strange. He's standing very still. The dispatcher asked, who is standing still? Another pause, longer this time. The woman lowered her voice even more. I don't think he knows I can see him. The dispatcher felt a chill run down her spine. She asked if the woman could leave the apartment safely. The woman whispered back, no, if I move, he might move too. The dispatcher asked her to describe the man, but the woman didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was shaking. He's standing in the corner of my bedroom, she said, facing the wall. The dispatcher asked, is he armed? The woman replied, I don't think he needs to be. At that moment, the dispatcher noticed something odd. There was a second sound on the line. Not static, not interference, breathing, deeper than the woman's, closer to the phone. The dispatcher asked for the address immediately. The woman whispered, apartment 611. Then she added one final sentence, a sentence that would later be written word for word in the police report. Please, she said, don't make noise when you come. The line went completely silent, but the call did not end. Apartment 611 was located on the top floor of a 12-story building on the edge of town. The building didn't stand out. Gray concrete, narrow windows, the kind of place people moved into when they needed something cheap and temporary. It was built in 1968, originally advertised as modern living. But from the beginning, residents complained about the same thing, noise. Not loud noise, quiet noise. The sound of footsteps above them, even when no one lived upstairs. The sound of something shifting in the walls late at night. Most disturbing of all, breathing. People reported waking up at night convinced someone was standing in their bedroom, watching, always standing perfectly still. Apartment 611 had the worst reputation. Tenants rarely stayed longer than a few months. Some left in the middle of the night, leaving furniture behind. Others refused to explain why they moved. One tenant told the building manager that the corner of the bedroom felt wrong, like the room doesn't end there, he said. Another tenant claimed the shadows in that corner moved differently than the rest of the room, as if they were reacting to something unseen. Maintenance workers avoided the apartment whenever possible. One electrician quit halfway through a job after insisting he felt someone breathing directly behind him. He turned around. No one was there. Over the years, small incidents were reported. Doors unlocking themselves, lights turning on at exactly 2:17 in the morning. And once, a late-night call to the front desk from apartment 611. The caller said nothing. They just breathed into the phone for almost a full minute. When security finally checked the apartment, it was empty. No tenant, no sign anyone had been inside, which made the 911 call that night even more disturbing, because according to the building records, apartment 611 had been officially vacant for over 6 months. Officers Daniel Reeves and Marcus Holt arrived at the apartment building at 2:24 a.m. The parking lot was nearly empty. Only one light flickered near the entrance, buzzing softly in the cold night air.
Reeves glanced up at the building. "You ever notice how the quiet feels louder at night?" he asked. Holt didn't answer. He was staring at the top floor. One window stood out, apartment 611. It was completely dark. No lights, no movement. Yet Holt couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them from behind the glass. Inside the building, the hallway smelled of dust and old carpet. Their footsteps echoed as they approached the elevator. The elevator doors took longer than usual to close. As it began to rise, the lights inside flickered. The display skipped numbers, 4, 7, 10, then stopped briefly at 11. The doors did not open. The elevator continued to 12. Holt let out a slow breath. "You feel that?" he asked quietly. Reeves nodded. The hallway on the 12th floor was unnaturally cold. The air felt thick, heavy in their lungs. Apartment 611 was at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar. That immediately raised concern. Reeves pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, too loudly. Both officers froze, listening. Nothing moved. No footsteps, no voice. Inside, the apartment was empty, completely empty. No furniture, no pictures. Dust covered the floor in a thin, undisturbed layer. Except for one thing. 2 fresh footprints leading from the doorway, straight toward the bedroom, and stopping just short of the corner.
The bedroom was colder than the rest of the apartment. The temperature seemed to drop the moment the officers stepped inside. Officer Reeves swept the room with his flashlight. The beam moved slowly across bare walls, an empty closet, a window sealed shut. Nothing appeared out of place, and yet both officers felt it, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Holt pointed toward the corner, the same corner where the footprints had stopped. At first it looked normal, just 2 walls meeting, but as Reeves stepped closer, his light caught something on the paint. Marks, faint at first, then clearer. Handprints, dozens of them, pressed flat against the wall, some overlapping, some smeared, all at about chest height, all facing the corner, as if someone had been standing there for a very long time, refusing to turn around. Holt felt his throat go dry. "Why would someone do this?" he whispered. Reeves didn't answer. His flashlight had moved upward toward the ceiling. That's when he stopped breathing. One final handprint was pressed into the ceiling above them, perfectly formed, clearly human, at least 8 feet off the ground. There was no furniture, no ladder, no possible way a person could have reached it. The room fell completely silent. Then, something exhaled, not from the officers, not from the hallway, but from the corner itself, slow, deep, right behind them.
Officer Reeves was the first to move. He stepped back from the corner slowly, carefully, as if any sudden motion might draw attention. Holt followed, his eyes never leaving the ceiling. Neither of them spoke. They backed out of the bedroom and into the hallway. The moment they crossed the threshold, the pressure in the air eased slightly. Reeves reached for his radio. "Dispatch," he said quietly, "we have a situation at apartment 611. Static answered first. Then the dispatcher's voice came through, tense and confused. "Unit 12, be advised, the 911 call is still active." Reeves frowned. "Still active?" "Yes," the dispatcher replied. "The line never disconnected. We can still hear audio." Holt felt his stomach tighten. "What kind of audio?" he asked. The dispatcher hesitated. "Breathing," she said, "and something else." Reeves asked her to put the call on speaker through the radio. There was a brief pause. Then the sound came through, slow breathing, much louder than before, as if the phone had been lifted closer to someone's mouth. Then, a faint scraping sound, like skin dragging against a wall. Holt looked back toward the bedroom. The hallway light flickered, once, twice, and from inside the bedroom they heard it again, that same deep exhale, this time closer. The dispatcher's voice broke through the radio. "Officers, the caller just whispered something." Reeves swallowed hard. What did she say? Another pause. She said, "It turned around." Neither officer moved after hearing those words. It turned around. The hallway felt impossibly narrow now. The light above them dimmed, buzzing softly. Reeves tightened his grip on his flashlight and stepped forward. "Daniel," Holt whispered, "we should leave." Reeves didn't answer. The breathing was no longer coming from the radio. It was coming from inside the apartment, from behind them. Slowly, Reeves turned back toward the bedroom doorway. The corner was no longer empty. Something was standing there. Tall, too tall. Its limbs were pressed unnaturally close to its body, like it had learned how to stand by watching humans, but never quite understood how. Its face was hidden in shadow, but Reeves could see its eyes, open, unblinking, looking directly at him. Holt raised his weapon, his hands shaking. "Police!" he shouted. The thing tilted its head, just slightly, as if confused by the sound. Then it smiled, not wide, not aggressive, just enough to show that it understood. The radio crackled one last time. The dispatcher's voice came through in a whisper. "Officers, we're losing the signal." The lights went out. When backup arrived minutes later, apartment 611 was silent. Officers Reeves and Holt were gone. No signs of a struggle, no blood, just 2 sets of handprints on the bedroom wall, pressed flat, facing the corner, and one final print slowly forming on the ceiling at exactly 2:17 a.m.